All right. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole. The date is Thursday, November the 6th, 2025. The time is 6:01. With that, I'll do a roll call. Councillor McLaughlin, Councillor Broughton here, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Abbott online.
Yes.
Okay. Councillor Cunliffe.
I think Councillor Cunliffe message
Provided.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, with that, we'll call the meeting to order and the adoption of the agenda, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, second. Second. Councilor McLaughlin, second. Councilor Broughton, move. Any amendments, changes? No, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Sorry, I gotta wake up here.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I didn't realize it was that important at the beginning.
Public participation, anyone online?
No one online.
No one online. Okay, with that, we'll move right to item number 5.1. And the approval of the minutes, October 23rd. We have a motion to approve October 23rd, 2025, moved by Councilor McLaughlin, seconded by Councilor Broughton. Any amendments, changes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Business rising for minutes. None, okay, unfinished business. So we have 7.1 budget meeting number 4 for discussion and approval. I will pass it over to Mr. Cherkoff and he can answer any questions or walk us through any changes.
Thank you. Crystal, so you took your stick there, or you?
Yeah, do you want this one? Is that the one you want?
You scroll down?
Oh, sorry.
If I may, Mayor Barry, so we've got a package, we've got spreadsheets, we've got this. You're gonna guide us through which one we're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bit of confusion, other numbered pages and stuff like that, so.
The other one was just like numbers on the first.
Mr. Cherkoff, will it be the same as the handout he gave us?
Yeah, the handout, yeah.
So we can go off of that.
Sure.
Oh, this is the driver?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is the one that you want. then.
And I sent you the email with that, budget.
So you'd like to see that one?
We'll get to that towards the end.
Okay, I have to, switch it.
Okay, so, after paper copy, the slide presentation, got the first page is 2026. Actually, I'll just start off kind of where we left off. Our last meeting, we went through, and there was a summary provided in the agenda package, just kind of a notice of a summary update of where we landed. So we got through the operating department of the budgets. So meeting 4, we're just getting into kind of where we landed and start making decisions regarding tax rates, increases, and what happens. And what on and off the table in this discussion about how we're going to fund the current year's budget. So starting it off so after all input has been made through last few meetings, the 2026 financial plan overview. This is page. The first, second page is reflecting a deficit in 2026 of $177,000. That's an operating deficit. And in order to create a balanced budget, essentially what happens is that we would draw on existing reserves to get that to 0. Page 3, as we haven't kind of touched on it, but it's not really a big deal. So I've got the revenue budgets for 2026. These are really, we tax for property tax, utilities. I mean, the numbers are basically going to be what they're going to be based on what we what council approves as far as rate adjustments. So property tax currently as a base budget reflects a 3% increase in property taxes, as discussed previously. Utilities include a 5% increase across the board, which we discussed previously and had approval of. Big difference in the 26 budget for grants. It went way down, but that's because we got $3.9 million in grant for the AZAP project in 2025. So we got that money already. We'll spend it part of it this year and most of it next year. And we got approval for the loan from MFA to fund the Cup 3 project. So we'll get a $1.3 million that should come in about a week or so. And that'll fund Cup 3, but we're not gonna be pursuing any further loans or in 2026. So that's the variance in revenue.
Through the chair.
Yes. Councilor Rowe?
Yeah, just what kind of rate of return would you be getting on these amounts when they're coming in? Like the 4 million, what's that invested at?
Currently, it's at we're getting two. So we got two investment streams. One is FISA, is both with MFA. FISA is a high interest savings account, which is higher than our savings account with Scotia Bank. And then there's the pooled investment fund, which is additional 0.25% over and above what we get on our regular savings. So we're getting about in comparison to like a base GIC, we're getting an extra 0.4%.
So we're getting about 4%.
Yeah, four basis points better than what we get if we just put it into a GIC.
Okay, what would the current GIC rate be then?
So that would be 3.1%.
Well, that's not what the street's getting, you're doing a hell of a deal.
We get better rates with that MFA.
Councilor McLaughlin, you have your hand up?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor Berry. If I could go back to page 2.
Yeah.
And debt center, the red part of the bottom, 177 grand deficit. If I've got this right, you've replugged all the numbers here, and you've gone through it. And as it stands here, we're at shortfall 177. And you made the comment that we would just take that from our reserves.
So that's, I'm leading into that in the following pages.
Aha, thank you.
You're welcome. So if we go to page 4, here, your point, there's a surplus deficit kind of breakdown. So for 2026, revenues are projected to be 5.06 million, expenses at 5.243 million, resulting in the operating deficit of a 177K. In order to get a balanced budget, the average household contribution would be about an additional $296 per household to get to a balanced budget.
Which is a tax rate of what?
Sorry?
Tax rate of what?
Tax rate is approximately 8% additional.
No, typically, your original plug was a 3% gross tax rate, so that 3 becomes
11%. So what that gets you for the household contribution with I highlighted some of the new stuff that's in there. These are base kind of new items that we kind of need to address for sure. So that's why they're included in our kind of base budget. And so we've spoken about the OCP update, the bylaw update, all hazardous risk assessment, and the MAG road, extra 40K for the MAG access road for public works. And I've broken down each of those kind of costs on a average household contribution rate. So in order to get to a balanced budget, the property tax for an average household would increase by about $296.
spit it out in terms of the percentage.
5%.
Double one.
1-1.
So 11 increase in total from last year.
Yeah. The next page is about reserves, and so I just wanted to give a council kind of a little bit more of an understanding, or as much as I can, on what your reserves are at. So our general reserve is this page, and so anticipating anticipating at a 3% tax rate increase, and everything, all the good bits are in there. We're at running a operating deficit of $177,000. When we adjust that for non-cash items, we got available cash coming into the community of $490,000. We have to factor in the month we have to pay down our debt. our money that's earmarked for the infrastructure reserve and our transfers to the land reserve to repay the parcel tax, that's parcel taxes. And we're repaying the amount that was borrowed from there. So effectively, at the end of the day, we're drawing on our existing reserves on a cash basis of $202,000. The general reserve makeup is on the following page, and it shows like climate action, fire truck, Hurley Stewart, recycle BC, and your general slash account. These are unrestricted reserves. There have been, like for example, like climate action, fire truck, recycle BC. These aren't statutory reserves; they are reserves that have been created by the Village of Lions Bay, but they are in general reserve.
Let's ask the question written to the climate action number. It's higher last time you gave it to us.
I would have to check that, but this is the number I think that is after reducing it for fire up costs in 2025.
Then the recycle BC number, that is not that, that's how much money we ever received from recycle BC in total. There's meant to be drawdowns from that.
Right, and we spoke about this over email. There were going to be some year-end adjustments to.
So that number's not there.
It's going to be a bit lower. It's going to be one bucket together. But yeah, it's not going to be a significant change. Up next, in reserves and details, the following page, what I've highlighted in yellow is the items that make up the general reserve. And then the other items are your statutory reserves and like completely earmarked for a specific project. So we have our statutory reserves of infrastructure, capital, land, and then we have our gas tax reserve. And so what I'm trying to show here is basically for our capital projects, where's the funding coming from? And so the 2026 budget for capital projects is effectively drawing down on existing reserves that we've saved up for in the past. AZAP again is like 100% funded by the province. CUB 3 is 100% funded by a loan. And so, and then you see the very bottom line, general reserve there, that 202,000 operating deficit, our cash deficit is being reflected there as a reduction or draw on our general reserve as it currently stands. So I guess that's kind of the state of the union. What we kind of want to talk about today is.
Sorry, before we go any further, on the gas tax one, do you have a breakdown of what the 535 is?
A little bit arbitrary. I was just trying to spread it out. You can obviously take, I can move all of it from into infrastructure or what have you. These infrastructure gas tax effectively been pretty close to what you use them for. But as far as
You said that infrastructure is reserves we built up over the years.
Yeah.
Gas tax is an additional kind of tax money that the government gives us.
Yeah.
Came out in COVID, used to be called something else.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of annual input basis that I would think we could discretionally spend on an annual basis. Probably should try spend it annually. We shouldn't actually build it out.
Yeah, we've had to generate a large reserve for that. We've definitely allocated any money from that in the past. So that's, I'm just trying to, in the ballpark, to show how it could be. If there's a request from council to draw it all from a rejig where it's coming from, that's great. Which specific reserve? Okay, no problem at all. It's just, this is how we're funding. The point is
I get it won't change the bottom line, but it's just, are we using it for what it was intended?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, Crystal, from that email that I sent you, is it possible to get that on screen with the budget matrix?
Why are we running the recycle BC at 154,000? What's that earmarked for?
It isn't, it's, well, firstly, it's high because nothing's been drawn down in it. It was 25,000 a year. And it could be spent on you had to spend 5,000 on communication, explained this before, which is loosely defined, and then the balance of the 20, you could spend on any, you had flexibility what you could spend with it. So things like the recycling depot that we've put in should have been drawn off that, but it hasn't been. We said the staff on the Saturday mornings should have been drawn off that, but it hasn't been. So it accumulated in the first few years because we couldn't get anything done. Now we should have been drawing down on this. And previous communications in previous years should have been drawn from it as well. Those are relatively minor, I would have thought. So yeah, we need to get some better clarity on that.
Right, and as far as that goes, they will currently, there'll be a reallocation, effectively a year-end adjustment to get that the right bucket. So you're absolutely right, it's gonna go down, but it's gonna come from another bucket.
I think the other thing people should realize it's jumped up this year, almost doubled. And that was because we had a really clean audit, I think.
Yes,
And the clean audit is because we're putting the recycling depot in, for example, which is then getting more recycling out of the landfill. So you're supposed to reinvest it in those kind of initiatives. We're doing very well. If they gave us another 20 grand, probably speaks to that.
Right, yeah, so we're projecting $45,000 this year from this, and previously, actually 20 grand. And we did get a great report from Recycle BC. And that also goes to the communication part, like we've been doing it. And to your point in one of your emails, you've been arguing that we've effectively doing it all along. How to quantify it, I guess. But as a result of our efforts at the village to get everybody on side with recycling and making sure they put the right things in the right buckets, we're getting rewarded for it, which is great news.
So you are allowed to draw down staff time, like what you described in the village updates, they're doing all of those kind of things. So that number should come down.
Okay, so that you're gonna reallocate that.
Yeah, there'll be a year-end adjustment. So it'll true up again. It'll be from one bucket to another, but it's not gonna affect your bottom line. It's just gonna show where it ends up.
Yeah, Councilor Broughton?
So the operational deficit then will be reduced by the fact that the cost of operations will be drawn from some of these funds. Is that right?
No,
Could you possibly?
No, okay,
no. Doesn't work that way.
okay.
Sorry.
Oh, here, yeah, I think we got the.
No, I don't know, I don't disagree with that. So, I think it is going to reduce, it's showing, let's just explore that. If you allocate the Saturday morning, let's just look at that, because that's probably the biggest number and the easiest one to define. If you allocate the Saturday morning money that's spent on the extra staff overtime hours, as well as the cost of the CCAN and all the stuff that was a capex we had to buy, if you allocate that draw it down from this fund, then surely that is something that you're not carrying on the operating side.
So you'll reflect.
We shouldn't be taxing for is what I'm saying. Because we're using BC recycling money, or it's attended, we shouldn't be then ignoring it and taxing for it extra.
If I could explain that, I guess maybe in more technical details, how it's presented or shown in our statements. So the money coming in from Recycle BC is shown as a revenue item. Yes.
So again, the revenue number. Okay. All right. Take it all back. Okay. So it's actually worse.
Well, no, it just means that on the reserves, like basically what's going to happen is the Recycle BC reserve, like that amount, that 154 is going to come down, call it 10, 15 grand. But the general reserve is going to go up because the operating costs are also already been paid for. It's just moving from one bucket to another. It's not really going to have any effect on the bottom line.
Okay, Councilor Broughton?
There you go.
There's a.
Thank you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Mayor Barry. Two small things, Mr. Chirkov. Love the blue stuff on the side, blow that away, make the numbers bigger.
Okay.
And in particular, your page numbers in the bottom right are a little tiny for my eyes, that's just an optics thing. I appreciate the presentation, please go ahead with bigger numbers. So I don't want to synthesize where I think you're going, but as I understand the pages that we've gone through, just to recap, you have gone through our whole weekly discussion here, loaded it into page two, thank you very much. And that includes everything.
Yeah.
And we're short round numbers 180K. If I then flip to page 4, the 180K, you've broken it down into some larger cost items, which are a part of that. Which, sorry, it's 180K is a 3% increase as you projected. To do the wish list, which is on page 4, it goes to 11. And I'm sure the statement here is that all the duking it out that we've done over the last several weeks is the CapEx and all the rest of that stuff. These are operational things. We're not borrowing, we're not drawing. It's fully loaded right into this number.
Yeah.
And of that, short of borrowing, and you did not propose to take any of that from reserves. This is what we're facing, either an 11%, or I presume we're gonna reduce this at some, that's what the discussion today is about,
Right there.
right there. And there it is. Thank you.
Got it on big paper.
Nice summary.
Big paper, I like that. I have the only one though.
So that breakdown of kind of what we were kind of discussing and how we got these numbers. So this looks at, identifies some of the supplementals. You call it supplementals, so it's a bit of wish-wash because some of the stuff is base that we kind of need.
May I circulate?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And so we've got one by one here, and so some decisions to be made on how we want to pay for this or turf it. So all these items have been in principle approved. And so now we're at the end of the day, and we're on an operational side, we're operating at a deficit on operations. And so we're trying to figure out now, get consensus on, okay, we talked about all of these items already. And so now we get some consensus on, okay, are we gonna keep it or not? How are we gonna pay for it? Is it gonna be tax, debt, reserve? So number one is.
So, but none of this, sorry, and I was listening, I came in, but it's just make sure I'm clear, and then something's on. None of this is included in the operational
No, it's-
177,000.
That's fully loaded. That has everything.
That has all of this,
It's fully
All of
loaded.
this stuff.
so it's not operational, it includes capex.
CapEx, yes, and which, but, can we get?
So if we, so put another way, if we found $177,000 in savings on this list, we'd be at a 3% increase. That's
Counselor,
what-
this is the killer babies list.
No, no,
Yeah.
so if we take 177K out of this, we'll be at a 3% increase and no deficit. And no,
That would be starting at, that'd be ending at number 4, number 1.
no, I'm just, that's statement taken. Okay, fine, okay.
Mr. Chirkoff, through the mayor, I really like that we've done this. It's driven us right to a point in a short time.
I've got to give the props to.
No, let's not give anything to him. It's all, you're the one standing there.
Team effort.
There you go. Thank you for that.
So we'll start with that. So we discussed OCP update, just get started at $70,000. The staff was directed to kind of get a report on what's going to take, what do you get for that? Is kind of where we left on that. It's still included in the budget, but assuming that we want to go through this, and Ross, I don't know if you want to speak more to the OCP portion of this and why it's necessary to have it in there.
Well, yeah, so those first 3 I can speak to, so let me speak to number 3 first. Building off of where I thought I heard Councillor Abbott going. The easy one to knock off the list right now because of question marks, we don't know what we're looking at, is number 3. So you can park that right now if you want, that in what I refer to as the parking lot. You decide later you want to return it into the main matrix, fine. But there's so many unknowns at this point, that's an easy one for council to put in the parking lot. The OCP you've talked about already, I don't think there's more than I can add. It's something that you're sort of setting money aside for. It won't have a lot of progress in 2026, but sort of
But how much of the 70 grand would we spend in 2026?
That's a good question. Don't know. If I were to spitball a number, I would say maybe 15.
So we could choose just to finance the 50, which is going to be whatever the public engagement kind of part looks like.
I would go a little bit higher for safety, but I would say 20 if you want to do that. The bylaw updates for that amount, again, arbitrary amount. It's, assuming that it'll cost, that reflects roughly in the ballpark of say $35,000 per bylaw. That's just a placeholder, depending on the size of the bylaw. Zoning bylaw would be a lot more money. Some of the other bylaws are very small, so, you could adjust that one down a little bit, and sort of cut your coat to suit your cloth. You can always add on if you ever need it in the future. It's not like what you want it done. But even if you took, say, 20,000 off of that, that could still get you a couple of bylaws. But in particular, the zoning bylaw, but that said, it's important to remind council that the hierarchy should normally be, in the perfect world, the OCP, which is the policy document.
Mhm.
And then the bylaw should sort of reflect the direction of the OCP. Not overly critical here, because there's not very many different land uses relative to the zoning implications. And the zoning bylaw is so in need of adjustments that you could make a decision to move forward on that, but I'm not trying to prosecute that one way or the other, just simply saying that's sort of the lay of the land. So that's what I can sort of contribute to your thought process.
So there's nothing really to back up the 100,000, just a guess.
It's a ballpark, yeah, of roughly 35,000, but that'll be high for some bylaws, low for others. But on average, it would be roughly 35,000.
That is down from the 175K
That
request.
would be all the bylaws.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions. Thank you.
Councilman McLaughlin.
Thank you very much. Again, thank you, Mr. Chirkoff, for this large print. Good stuff. I think the OCP update, I understand, the bylaws, I understand, the all risk hazard, I understand. Mr. Berg explained the mag access road last time, store, yes, PH, yes. The well water, yes, the kitchenette, Brighton addition, I thought, we're talking about the blow out of the back part, I thought that was 200K.
Yeah, 100 per year, rather than all at once.
Ah, okay. Although when so you changed the numbers because I used the word pitched in a friendly way. It was shown as 200 on our list before. So that was before you forced the whole thing, and so it's 100 and 100.
That was based on council's.
Yeah, no, I got the 200 was fine, I got that, but although you expect to do it within 2026.
Ideally, do it as soon as possible.
How does that? No, I don't want to get too academic here. How is it that if it's gonna cost 200 and you allocate 100 in 2026 and you do it in 2026 and it costs 200?
Money man, what do you say?
That means we're taxing for it one way or the other, or reserves.
Reserves, yeah.
Well, okay, don't do that, I mean. So this number is really 200.
Well, it's 200 period, roughly. And
Oh, and by the way, if you notice there's a zero missing, I like that.
I did not notice that.
Good value.
I like the fact is, let's do it all in one year.
It's imperial.
Okay, so in reality, if I hear, well, it is annotated with the extra 0 to 100K, it's a cost, if I could be so bold, it's a cosmetic. I would say that all of us would like it done in 2026, and it could be done in 2026.
Yes.
So, taking it from reserves for some taxing is,
61.
okay, thank you.
It just has an impact on the requisition for this year.
Well, I think you'd rather have the whole skate and go now than drag it out. And drawing from reserves on something you told us is gonna cost 200K doesn't resonate with me. I mean, it's, okay, that's neither here nor there. Thank you very much, Mr. Chirkoff. I'm ready to start going here.
Okay.
Somewhere along the way, I find it hard to just spitballing that bylaws update. Again, Don Lidstone offered to do that with juniors, and I just don't know why we haven't gone to him and got a little more clarification rather than not knowing that was the LGMA that he offered that. So how can we get a little more specific on that? And I know you say we won't know until we dive into it, but we've had the provincial advisors here for 5 months who told us bylaws were weak, and they pointed out the weaknesses. So it can't be that difficult for Dawn to give us a little bit of some feedback on it, and for that matter, put a number on it. You get his feedback and then go, hey, we want you to do it for X amount.
Here's how I would answer it. That would be like me asking you how much a car costs and expecting to get an accurate answer. And your answer would be, well, it depends on what kind of car it is.
And using that analogy, asking me that and I don't answer it for 5 or 6 months. That's how long we've been sitting on this, so I'm just having a hard time just not having any clarity. We knew about this, actually told him to try to direct us in that direction. Provincial advisor took 5 months, gave us that guidance. Don Lidstone at the LGMA said, offered to put his juniors on it, that we're doing it for other cities. So I'm just having difficulty.
So-
Anyway, so I think, it's 100 grand, whatever you put on there, anything's gonna be positive. Trying to move forward in some of these, so. 50, 125, doesn't matter. It's just a guess.
Could I
Yeah.
talk
Councillor
about those two in particular, the OCP and the zoning bylaw in particular? I think those are the two big decisions. Potentially we'll have big decisions at a high level, strategic decisions. And you're right, should be doing those first. Even if we tried to do the zoning bylaw is not some technical administrative thing. We're gonna make changes that you're then gonna have to either reflect in your OCP or come back and change. Your OCP turns out to be different.
And it won't, because it's such a generic.
Yeah, but hang on, we've been told OCP needs to be updated. The last time it was updated 2022, but 2017, 60 effectively. Other than the containment boundary part of it, that was just changing language. We didn't go back to the public then and say, hey, have you changed your minds? Do you want to live in high rises or what do you want to do? We didn't go back and ask that question. So that's old. We need to ask that question. What does densification truly look like? What do people really want? What does gentle densification mean? What is in everyone's mind? And then I don't know, guess what that outcome is going to be. But if it's written a zoning bylaw that turns out to be different to what that outcome is going to be, then we've got a problem. We've got to go back and do it again, or change those portions of it. So what I'm suggesting here is we understand that we want to spend some money and understand, again, going out to residents and trying to get a better vision for the village. Has it changed, or do people still think what they thought nearly 10 years ago? Do people still think the village has exactly the same fundamentals and principles and goals and whatever? But we need to go ask that question, and that's a 20K we could spend this year. I think we need to do that before we change the zoning bylaw. Is there something in the zoning bylaw about, I don't know, a setback or something that you have to change? In the interim, sure. But if you're going to start, like the conversation we're going to have at the end of this meeting tonight, if you're going to start making more fundamental density decisions, you need to either do them together or do them in the correct sequence.
So I can answer that.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
That's a really good question. So, in another situation, if this was a different community, big community, I would say, yeah, there's no way around that. Lionsby is different insofar as the zoning bylaw is very simple. So even if, let's just create a crazy extrapolation here. Let's just say the an OCP process was kickstarted and council determined that in fact they want skyscrapers, 50-story buildings all around here. What impact would that have on the zoning bylaw? None. If the zoning bylaw was if the zoning bylaw was updated and all of these language issues were sorted out, the only additional change with that new sort of density sort of notion would be adding a multi-family residential zone relative to that density. And so you just drop another zone in there. The rest of the provisions would largely be the same. You might have different provisions, a tweak to the parking provisions and so forth, but 99% of the bylaw would be unaffected. Not applicable in other communities.
Just building on Councillor Abbott, comments, I agree, I think, the OCP update or visioning or reaching out to the community to find out if the community is wanting the same things that were in the last OCP, or if we've had a turnover of residents or a growth of residents. We've got older residents that have reached the age where perhaps they want some transitional housing as opposed to moving to West End and leaving their social network. So I agree with Councillor Abbott. I think the OCP update, as important as the bylaws, we know we've heard from the provincial advisor, Tobin, and others, we need updates, but we need to know what we are updating or which direction we're gonna go in, if there is any directional change. So,
Yeah, so a little note.
so just let me finish. You put forward a spectacular proposal there, and I don't recall exactly, it probably going back 4 or 5 months maybe now, where you suggested that we have some community get-togethers and bring in some experts to talk about transitional housing or this or that or whatever it might be. I would like to see that sort of advance. So, and without micromanaging, I'd love for you to take the bull by the horns and start setting up meetings and saying, you know, council, we're gonna meet once a month or every 6 weeks or every 2 months and get moving on that. And I think that would be information that would feed into this visioning, OCP, whatever it might be. I think we need to get going on some of these things. We need to get doing them. Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much, Mayor Barry and Councillor Abbott. I like where both of you are going. OCP with what, if you take the holidays away, I have 9 months left in term for this Howard Council. The timing just doesn't mesh. I think, I recall what you mentioned about Mr. Blackwell doing that piece, and thank you for reminding me of that. I think I'd much rather look at that again, have your say and do some exploratory work at a low cost number, giving information for the next council as to where they want to go with this. I think writing a check for 70K, just a third party source, it just doesn't resonate with me.
So I think what we're talking about here though is gathering information to feed into an OCP. I mean, that might not even be the proper terminology. It might be more visioning, have your says, town hall meetings, whatever it may be. And Mr. Blackwell's explained that before. It's like a funnel that comes in. So the actual OCP might take 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be. But the earlier we start, and these are things that were actually identified. Sorry, just let me finish, because I'm building on your comments. These are actually things that were identified back when the provincial advisor was here and spent 5 months. We need to reach out, we need to start moving on some of those things. We put ideas forward, but we don't execute. That would be my suggestion, is we just need to get moving.
Just on this, just to
Councilor McLaughlin.
I think we're all on the same page here. I don't think that has a 70K price tag to it. I think it's got a small price tag to it. It's in-house.
I agree with you that I don't believe that these meetings should cost that much. I think it's staff's time, and if councilors are gonna be there, councilors' time.
And some guidance. I mean, I get that too.
Sure. Yeah, Mr. Blackwell.
So I just need to make sure, so you can do both at the same time, they're not mutually exclusive. But just a technical consideration, the zoning, you can't change, so statutorily, the zoning bylaw must match or marry with the OCP. So if there are these exercises done over 2026, you can't change the zoning bylaw based on what you hear. You can only change the zoning bylaw to match the OCP. You have the OCP. So until you have a new OCP, the existing zoning bylaw has to stay matching with it. So what I'm suggesting is there's lots of fine tuning to the problematic language that can be done to get it most of the way, so that if and when a new OCP was done, that extra little lift to sort of fine tune the last little bit of the zoning bylaw will be tiny, relatively speaking. So you can do both if council so much.
Councilor
Just to remind people, and maybe yourself as well, that the level of engagement of this community. It's not typical, probably very atypical. We saw that on Monday night on a very kind of minor issue. If we start adjusting the zoning bylaw and we don't go out and have your says and get some public engagement, even if it is somewhat on a different level to what you're actually asking in the zoning bylaw, we're just going to get bunches of people coming up and saying, why aren't you listening to us? So we need to get that. That's got to be the first step. We've got to say, this is what we're looking at the zoning bylaw. This is what needs to change to marry things up. Future conversation is going to be about this, but this is what's being impacted. Give people time to send things in. Don't, they need to get decent amount of time, get all the links early, see all the documents early. And we need to get that. So I think we need to get that going first. And if that does need an allocation of 20K, not 70K, fine. But I do agree that the bulk of it just.
Just clarification on that. So the zone, when I'm speaking about the zoning bylaw updates, it's not changing anything with the zoning bylaw. I mean, no substantive, it's be exactly as it is now.
Well, I just reminded you, we said the same thing about the temporary use permits or the secondary use part of the zoning bylaw. Sorry, the short-term rental part of the zoning bylaw, we said the same thing. Nothing's changing. But on a very short notice, 35 people wanted to know what was going on and came. This will be even bigger. So let's not follow the same path and tell people, don't worry about it. Nothing's really changing. And then we get change of bylaw, people come banging on the door. Let's do it properly. Let's tell them we are changing a bylaw. Yes, this is how we would like to categorize it, but give everyone an opportunity. Give them a couple of weeks. Let them respond to the have your say. And if some of the responses are further down the path towards an OCP than they need to be now, we can just deal with it that way. We say, okay, that part we're not considering now, this part we understood.
Okay, Mr. Blackwell and then Councillor Brown.
So what I recommend for council is to not contemplate the mechanics. The mechanics of how these processes work out, I think is best discussed outside of the meeting, in another meeting, in other words. I think what the core question that council has to wrap their mind around is these numbers. What do you want to do with these numbers? Not the process per se. And again, if you don't use the numbers, if you set, for example, if you set $70,000 aside for an OCP update, and it doesn't get used in 2026, it just gets rolled over to 2027 and used in 2027. Either way, you're gonna have to spend that balance in 2027. So just saying that, I mean, it's probably what you might realize, but
it means we're gonna have 11% tax increase. And I know some people are gonna choke.
We're going to Councillor Brown and we'll go next hands up.
No, I think this is an important discussion in terms of looking at these numbers, because, we're wrestling with these numbers and then they become concrete in some ways. I think are there inefficiencies as a result of the way the bylaws are right now? And the municipal advisor identified that there were concerns and that there could be some implications to that. And in fact, could there be some liabilities that are created that as a result of our bylaws not being up to date? So I guess what I'm looking at is we need to address our bylaws where they're weak, if they are problematic, and because we keep saying this, well, let's wait until this, and let's wait until this, and let's wait until this. And so we end up, we go through our OCP process, and then we say, well, and now we got to go back into square one and work through our bylaws. Well, if the bylaws are in reasonable shape and are in 2025 kind of shape, then they can be adjusted. So I guess, I think it's an important discussion. I think we need to spend something on bylaws, whether it's 100,000. I don't think it's 100,000, but I do think we need to keep our eye on that.
Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much. I do enjoy a good debate, but I think if I can encapsulate, I think Mr. Blackwell is asking, putting aside this, what the notion of the minutiae of the issues are. This is the list. This takes us from, this is an 11% list. That's the fully loaded cost. I mean, I believe everybody here knows what each of these items are. And I think that perhaps to winnow down our discussion there, Barry, you might do a straw poll as to where people stand on this, so we can winnow down to really what the key pieces are. Now, I understand Councillor Cunliffe's not here, but she will be here at the next meeting, I'm sure. So there's, the split is just information, but I think, we're really. I mean,
Councillor
you're with
McLaughlin,
me.
I think I'm hearing you. I've got a proposal. This says OCP update. Personally, and I think what I'm hearing is what we actually want to hear is what is the vision of the village? And that feeds into an OCP. So for me, 20,000, 15,000 on a visioning session, and it might be multiple visioning sessions. And we might be able to get someone like a Susan Davies who did visioning for 2010 Olympics, or whoever it may be. Mr. Blackwell, you may be able to identify some 15,000 and 20,000. I'd be happy with that. So if
I think you're on the right page. for
okay,
that.
how many would be happy with that? Straw vote?
So we can,
15,000 on visioning that feeds in it. And quite frankly, I'd change that from OCP update because
That's not a word we want to.
we're not even there yet.
Yeah, but I think the other keyword is have your say. And those are cheap and they're easy.
I think that'd be part of a vision. It's
That's
like,
the
it can be, have your
mechanics,
say, it can be a town hall, it can be,
We need a plan,
whatever.
we need a plan. We need
round
a-
tables.
Yeah, we need a plan and an architect. I think you really,
Okay,
thank you very
so
much.
15,000 straw vote,
no, you need more
25.
25,
I just,
20, let's split it down the middle.
20. Look, I
Do I
read
hear
that
20?
10 minutes ago. I read that too.
Okay, perfect.
where's the
Okay,
missing
okay.
zero?
We got
again?
20.
That's the missing zero is
So,
7,000.
fine.
So the only question.
And we're calling it a visioning statement, not an
Well,
OCP.
it is part of yours. Keep it.
Well,
But
then,
anyway,
put visioning statement and put in brackets OCP.
which of these
You're on the roll, keep
columns
going.
do you want to put that in?
Okay, bylaws update, until we know what the vision for
Okay,
the,
which column do I want?
I think they should all go in taxation until we get to the end.
Mr.
And then we
Cherkow's
can come
making
back.
notes. He's
And
got,
then
he's got the 20 grand there,
Wherever you
not
put it.
70.
Do we,
Put them all in taxation for now. Let's get to the end.
do we
Let's get
have
it
funds
short.
set aside in
Yeah, no,
reserves
that's
for the
fine.
OCP? And we
let's
can look at
land
that
on some
later, yeah.
numbers here.
Well,
Put it in
Mr. Cherkow's
taxation.
gonna plug them
Okay, the
in.
bylaws, I'd like to get a quote on, or somebody to look at our bylaws and say that exactly like Councilor Broughton said, these are the ones that are really problematic.
What are the, and what are they costing us and what potentially could they cost us?
So I can
Because
give
I
you
think we
that,
can-
as a former consultant that did this for 15 years across Canada. The guy that used to write all
How
of
much
these.
will you do
bylaws.
that for?
So now you can do them on your
How
salary.
much will you do that
So
for?
it's free. You can do them.
Okay,
free,
so
you can
then
do it.
so we need that report,
What-
because 100,000 means nothing to anybody.
Ross said he's gonna drop everything else and he's gonna write them. We don't.
No, done.
What do you wanna put on there?
Next item.
Well, if you're
Okay,
gonna
no,
decide
no.
maybe bylaws you wanna do.
Well, we
So-
don't know until you tell us which are, we're on the edge of lawsuit for whatever reasons.
Right, so-
Councilor Broughton explained it well, and I believe that's the ones that are extremely problematic we need to address.
So
What are they
I
costing us?
I need to set aside, I mean, I've already set aside the time I have to bring forward a new building bylaw, a new subdivision servicing bylaw, et cetera, and some amendments. But that said, I haven't looked at the full.
Can we
suite.
get the juniors from Lidstone or Lidstone to look? Who do you want to get to look at this?
Well, so that's not really how it works, Ken. How it works is the client identifies the work that needs to be done and then works with that lawyer to scope out exactly what you're looking for. It takes a lot of work. But it starts with me having to go through all of these things. But I gotta know how much I have to work with, how many dollars I have to work with to be able to figure out which ones to move forward and which ones not. And what's the best basket of bylaws relative to the amount council wants to set?
Councilor McLaughlin.
50 and come back for more.
Okay, hands up for 50 instead of 100 here.
5-0.
5-0.
I still prefer bus
Okay,
zero.
but we need a plan on.
Oh, we need a plan.
We need a plan, so
We need a plan, yeah.
that's almost,
We're giving.
can we have a
plan. We're
timeline
giving-
on the
we're
plan?
giving-
Can we put that on the to-do list?
We're giving the staff a place mark here so that they can come back, need more, and it's logical, fine, but.
Just a reminder, a large bylaw, a zoning bylaw would be about $40,000 if it's farmed out. Just to give you an example, and the smaller ones would be anywhere around $20,000. Just to give you a sense.
We need to know, right?
Once again, at this stage, we can only do the tweaks in this. So we don't, because we haven't got the,
I'm just giving you that for context.
Okay, all hazards assessment, you're saying that we're too early on this because of all the, projects that are
reports back?
ongoing right now to do with the
Because of
various
the
hazards?
Other issues, I think, and so many of the unknowns, the goal here is to get the province to step in to look at its obligations, is how I would put it. So this is sort of being proactive, setting aside some money, but we don't even.
We have a recovery manager who's giving us guidance, we have Metro weighing in on things, so I think there was some suggestion that maybe that
Will
should
we be
be
hearing from the recovery manager?
next,
in the
close to
little
zero
while?
for now, or
So 10,
how does 10?
It's a $500,000, $700,000 exercise. I would go a lot.
trying to give you,
Zero.
Or
a
nothing.
giving you a place mark, that's all.
Okay, well then,
We've got-
Zero?
Zero.
Then
zero.
Zero is,
We've got the
got,
environmental risk assessment grant coming as well, which, not the same thing, I know that, but might also feed into it.
100%.
Okay,
strong vote for zero for me.
all right,
Zero.
Zero.
good enough.
Sorry,
Mag access road,
sorry, question, Councillor Abbott, did you want to capture anything with regard to this? No, it's not working, under grants.
Well, so we have that grant in for the Green Municipal Fund, but that's, part of that's a environmental risk assessment. Somewhat this, but it isn't an all hazard review.
Right, I'm wondering if we could, if you want to identify any chunk of, potentially any chunk of that money under grant, or just not.
Because we haven't got the grant. yet.
Let's keep going down and then we'll go back and categorize these. Mag access road, Mr. Burr, do you want to just explain, again, because when I think of the access road, I think of, the least expensive is put a grader over it, and if the water's not draining properly, we clean out that ditch.
So,
Can you explain it again?
yeah, so if you recall, you allocated $40,000 in this year's budget for the Mag Access Road. And I pointed out that we could get the entire thing done, including hardening it with asphalt millings, for $40,000 because the asphalt would be free. Council decided it didn't want to use that, and so if we are going to surface the road with 3/4 inch minus road base, we need another 40,000. But I would say
Did we also talk though just about grading it?
that's the
in
40,000,
That you said resurface with aggregate.
because the aggregate was free.
Well, the cost of placing and compacting the aggregate is not insignificant, so if you.
Because you
It says
can run a grader across some of these roads and they keep you good for a year or two.
That
Well,
particular
it's-
road has nothing to grade on the short.
The road is down to bedrock.
It's down to bedrock.
Yeah, okay.
There's nothing to grade. So it needs aggregate. What would be involved in the initial work would be reditching 2 culverts and dumping aggregate where we needed it. So one approach is to spend only the 40,000 that's been allocated already and see where that gets us. Dump 3/4 inch minus road base in a few necessary spots and see what happens next winter. If it gets washed away, and then we decide the grading will have been done, the ditching will have been done, the culverts would have been replaced. The 40,000 that's already been allocated will not have been wasted.
So that'll cost us 40,000 to do exactly what you just said.
Yeah, which has already been budgeted. It's in this year's budget. So this 40,000 is on top of that. I suggest we can do without it.
So in 2025 is budget?
There's 40,000 for Mag Access
We
Road.
did it last year. Yeah.
So, straw hand vote to, zero
leave it.
this out. Okay.
Let's leave it, yeah.
Project score, can you give us a background update on that again?
Now, unfortunately, the numbers that I updated last meeting still haven't made it into this presentation. The number that I need is 60,000, not 190. I won't break that number down for you,
And
but
how did it drop from 190 to 60?
it never dropped. I don't know where that money came from. So the council has funded 300,000 for score. We have spent all but 70. I need another 60 to do everything we think we need to do to
Done.
upgrade our SCADA.
We've done for a decade.
Done for a decade.
Okay, straw hand vote for 60 instead of 190.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good enough. pH water adjustment, 200,000.
The more measurement name for this one is Project Alpha. alkalinity and pH adjustment. And that's a conservative, somewhat home-built solution cost. As you know, the infrastructure committee is wholly on board with the necessity for this project now.
Well, not correct. The necessity of this project is 5 or 6 years ago, is what the committee was.
So we have pushed it back continually. Now it's time to do it. Somewhat based on my better understanding of what corrosivity of our water means, what the impact of lead is. It's time.
Okay, any comments or questions for Carl on pH water adjustment?
I've been talking about it for years. I'm already overdue. I don't know more.
I'm a yes on this.
Okay, Councilor Broughton?
Well, as I've said before, I'm concerned about the ongoing operational cost. Recognizing it's really important project to complete. And my understanding was that there may be, some other ways of getting at it, and is it worth delaying it a year to find out if there's another option? Because this is now year over year, this is going forward.
Yeah, I don't deny that there are operating costs. They're not substantial. They
No.
represent probably 2 or 3% of the water operating budget extra.
In dollars?
Which is
About $36,000 a year.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Michael, but just something that I don't think has ever been said out loud, and I've been thinking about, maybe others haven't realized. The other thing about this corrosiveness is this is the reason why all our water pipes are becoming problematic. If we fix this, we're going to stop that regression of the water pipes. They're past saving by now, but we're going to slow down. We're going to slow down the rate at which they are likely to collapse.
That's right. Well, I mean, the cast iron water mains that we have are done. They all need replacement. As you know, you funded 1.3 billion for the first stretch down here, the Cut.3 project. But the ductile lines that are more recent and the ductile line that we're going to be putting in going forward, with less corrosive water, they will last longer.
Okay, straw vote on this, 200,000. All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, opposed?
All
We're gonna do that.
that.
All taxation, then we can
Or-
hopefully get grants.
And this gives us our top 5 water in the universe.
Well, water investigation, 50,000.
It's good.
Okay, just for a running
That's
tally,
water river.
Mr. Cherkoff, how much have we shaved off so far?
Made it already.
330,000.
Yeah, so, with taking down OCP to 20,000, that's 2.5%. Bylaw down to 50, and that saving 50 grand, 2.5%. Taking out all hazard risk assessment, 50 grand, another 2.5%. Mag access road out 2%, so you're down to 1.5% required tax increase. But you want, I would not. That's where we're at now.
We're not finished yet. Okay.
Yeah, good enough. Okay, water investigation. Didn't we talk that updating this report? I think I saw 20,000 somewhere.
Okay, so
Into a report.
let me explain the 20,000 number. The 50,000 number was to ask, I put the 20,000 number in that report to council. We didn't really discuss it. And that was based on basically discussions with other members of the IC, which saying the first steps are, we've got to get staff talking to other levels of province, try and work out, can we do it? And maybe we don't need to jump to the $50,000 upgrade now.
20,
That's where that comes from.
20 is your number?
I'd go 25. I don't think it's gonna be 25, but just throw 25.
I'm there for 25.
And by the way, I was at a gathering, social gathering, and I talked to I don't know if he's married, he's a part of the regional area out by the Old Princeton Slide. They have done countless drilling. They're all on well water. And he would provide us with a lot of costs in that if we want that. And he said he was throwing out in the hundreds of thousands, if that. He mentioned 50,000 going up. So I think that we might be able to get some valuable information there, but we need a report. This is the first step.
And Mr. Berger supportive of that?
Yeah, I think that's fine. If it does, if the report comes back that wells are economically feasible, that's a good result. It's a good problem to have. So yeah, I would like to think that we can get the report that tells us that well within 20,000.
You say well? Well, within 20,000.
Mr. Chair,
Just before we get too
If
far
we
on,
drill
I
down
just,
into it.
we'd like to confirm, for the bucket for Alpha, Project Alpha. So currently it's sitting, under taxation, but
We should-
we're putting everything under taxation as Councillor Abbott
So we'll
suggested,
come back
and then we
later.
can carve it up afterwards. This will just,
We're just getting a number.
okay, kitchenette,
Okay,
For the
now, just around the well water, I just think it's critical that we have accurate information that we're, you know, looking
Well,
at.
if I can just
Which I really
interject,
appreciate.
that's just the feasibility report.
Right,
Actually drilling a test well, that's.
that's not gonna give us a
Yeah.
drill well, that's for sure.
but if they're giving us information indicates we should be drilling, then we need to look at that. So,
Although I would
let's
like
not
to think
do
that they can do some sort of assay of surface water to tell what it might be. We had hoped to gather some of that information from our UBC hydrology report. We have some indication, using isotope studies where the water is coming from.
Yeah.
On the surface, some of it is groundwater, especially in summer.
Yeah.
So that is indicative of what the quality of the groundwater is. So,
I think you're gonna have to drill down to find out.
Ultimately,
I've been on a project where we drilled 17 wells.
Can I just point out,
Yeah.
you
You don't know until you
this
drill
is
down.
just budget numbers, you gotta pick, you don't have to solve do the projects here.
Then that's okay, we'll
25.
move on.
Oh, yeah, but it's.
25. All right, kitchenette for Clat,
Yes,
For sure.
yeah. Straw vote, all in favor?
Where are we? Sorry.
Clat, number 8,
$5,000 for
5,000.
kitchen.
No, yeah,
That's
Okay,
if we have an issue.
we're all good on that, okay. Number 9, Broughton addition, 100,000.
question.
Yeah.
Staff said, yeah, but it's 200,000, it's gonna be done within the year. I think it's somewhat financial cosmetics to go over 2 years.
Yeah, no, you told me what it's gonna cost.
So how we fund it
It's
is
200.
a different story.
It's 200.
Maybe a
200K.
different story. So it's 200, it's the
But
200.
that's still the spitball number, it's
I mean,
not given any chance to,
You know, I'm all in favor of staff doing it in 2026, which is the year we're budgeting. Unless we're obviously not gonna take a loan, the option is to take it from reserves.
Yeah.
Let's not even talk
So we may
about
do,
the way was presented.
might do 100, yeah.
So,
and plus
I mean,
100, yeah.
the number is 2, so let's make the number 2, and then if. That's just my view.
You're suggesting put it to 200 instead of 100.
Yes,
You're gonna do it in a short period of time if you go forward.
Get it done.
Okay, all in favor of 200?
yeah, we need to deal with the real.
That's-
that's the
Yeah,
real
all in
number.
favor of 200.
I'm necessarily in favor of doing it yet, but the number is 200, let's see what we get.
Okay.
The number on the paper is
You can
200.
show the
and let's-
containers.
All right, smart locks. The only option that I would see is, 3 key all the locks. If we have so many keys out there and,
So we can talk about smart locks.
yeah,
So the benefit of smart locks is that instead of dealing with keying and rekeying and cutting more keys and so forth, these are fob accesses that are adjusted by the computer. So the fob is connected to a person. You can specify exactly when you're allowed to have access, 501 to 510.
And you see who has entered.
Who has them, it's a span of control, et cetera. It's just it's a good management
How many,
approach.
through the mayor, how many are we talking about?
Mr. Burke?
Well, this CAO's project, but I mean, I could, off the top of my head, access to the hall, access here, access to the historical society room, and that's about it. Particular, we could potentially do it for the EOC / multipurpose /,
Yeah,
ambulance
that'd be-
station.
yeah.
So that's one more lock.
Fire hall,
Well, that's all the same lock.
the back door.
The back door, so that's 3 locks.
That's 7 now.
Yeah, so if you can't order these doors.
so you're at 10.
You know, I don't see that we need any public works, that, you know, that's a single key.
Very
But it's a controlled.
All right,
There,
okay, all in favor?
How do we solve the problem that doesn't exist? Oh, we do.
well,
Well, there is a lot of keys out there and everyone, their dog.
and they're not
Yeah,
coming
so-
back.
They
Yeah,
should be.
The question is,
they should be
what is the problem you're solving? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but is anyone that has a key of using it?
Mr. Jerga.
All right, Mr. Jerkoff. Well, you want to charter these up into buckets then? Is there any grants available that we know of, that councilors know of that can? There's probably well waters, that type of situation might be able to pull on some grants. I mean, would that be able to pull on some of that, CAC grant?
The green, no, that grant is like it's a three-phase thing. So the first phase is study, second phase is something else, and then the final phase is $1 million. That's for a project.
Why not a study?
So.
This is, I mean,
so-
this is basically a study.
No, no, so I'm going to expand it a little. So the first phase is a risk assessment. What are your options? Wells could be one of the 5 things that we narrow in on. Then you decide which of those 5 things is the one you want to do as a group. Then you take that one and you do a feasibility study on it, and then you get $1 million to build it. So-
backtrack.
It could be on the list as one of the options,
Yeah.
along with all the other things we thought of. But we can't say that you can't nominate now what the project will be. You have to go through the process to get to the project.
Any other things on this list that CAC could fund potentially?
There isn't, because there's, I mean, LG cap money is meant to be spent on greenhouse gas emissions and all that. See, I don't know. Recycling management is a little bit more loose, but it's meant to be recycling aligned things, staffing costs factored in there. I can't
Yeah.
think of any.
Mr. Blackwell, anything in this list, the all hazards, well, we've zeroed that out, I guess. So anything on this list that you think we could apply for grants?
Not off the top of my head. Of course, once council is locked into a portfolio, we will obviously then start looking for grants to the extent that they exist, because grants is the first order of business, and then whatever we can't find.
But then, sorry, but Kim's question does bring something to mind, so. The CAC recommendations around the trucks and the F-150s, that's not on this list, right?
Yeah.
Thank
Councilor
you.
McLaughlin.
Thank you. I know that Mr. Cherkoff is busily grinding his pen into his desk.
The workshop manager wants a new truck.
But if I, quick eyeballs, and I wasn't using my
Because there's
machine. I've got about 470 versus 815. The big piece that clearly is a cap X, not, the water adjustment piece, I see that as, that is definitely operational. Building the extension out back is not, that's a hard asset. We could tax for it, or I don't think we could use our gas fund for it, which we might consider using our infrastructure levy for it. It's definitely a piece of infrastructure, and it's definitely needed. It's needed by ESS, and it's needed by staff for storage. So I think you could, again, the obvious thing is we could tax for it, and I have no problem with that. Or in this particular one, it's a lifelong asset, as lasts as long as this building does. So there's a fair argument for that. It'd be the first time. It's not a pipe, it's not sexy, but it is a CapEx.
Sorry, just to interject, wanted to point to the second column at the bottom. These are the updated numbers. So you shave $245,000 off, just to bring your attention to that.
Scroll back. Up.
50,060 to, oh, I got 62,
25 for the well,
25 for the well, 5,
5 for
200.
kitchen,
Yeah.
200 for the.
And okay, God, I love these. It is,
We added the
this
100.
isn't an Excel program,
Yeah.
so is the addition really correct?
It's been triple checked.
Okay, fine, I'll accept that.
I think we added the 100 on the road, that's why it
Oh, that's, yeah,
threw us off. Okay,
so that's Mayor Barry, that's my thinking on this.
yeah. Okay, I think that infrastructure makes sense.
So you want to move that to grant money? Is that what I'm hearing?
The broad
Yeah.
addition from reserves, infrastructure. reserve.
Infrastructure.
Well,
Reserves.
isn't it?
It was grant, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't grant, it was reserves.
Reserves.
But we're talking about the gas tax.
Infrastructure or gas.
Yeah.
No, I just couldn't possibly apply for the gas tax.
Well, it's exactly what you're supposed to spend the gas tax on.
Roads, road improvement, things like that.
It's,
It's any infrastructure.
Well, maybe I stand corrected.
that's why I kind of split it up on that, where the money's coming from on reserves. Yeah, you got, I guess it's in the line, but, or you divide the buckets up, I would just say, take 200,000 for reserves and I'll get to the right spot.
Right, so it doesn't matter as long as it comes out of that.
Okay, so to be clear, it's going to come out of one of the reserve pots as a CapEx piece, and you can tell us
Exactly which one.
why it ever would fit in the gas tax.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, gas tax, what's the other reserve,
So if
what
we
we
take-
got left from,
From what I recall, Joe, just on that gas tax, the gas tax is, you can spend on anything you like.
Pretty much, it's
Yeah.
really loosey.
Yes, but you're supposed to be invested in something.
Yeah.
As.
Asset
as
liquidity,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's exactly the right place.
let's do your homework when we do this. So really, if that was to happen, the 570 becomes 370, and that means give me the number.
You don't need an increase at all.
Oh, no, is it, so you,
370.
0%?
so, if we can, I guess what I'd like to see is, if we get to the pH water adjustment, which bucket, do you want to keep that as a taxation or draw on reserves for that? Because that's a 10% tax increase.
So that's the kind of stuff that should be coming out of the infrastructure levy. That's what it's for, isn't it?
Okay, so we move that over to reserves, that infrastructure levy, then we're down to a 1.5% tax increase effectively.
To fund the rest.
Define
Fund the rest.
Get to, yeah, define the rest, yeah.
So we've still got a few other things that might come in before we get to that point. Like shiny new track to replace what it's about to fall apart.
So effectively, what's with these, working with these numbers, you're basically at, 3% is still palatable. You have a slight operating surplus. And
How about the kitchenette for 5,000?
kitchenette, I'm gonna capitalize it. I can take that out of one of the reserves, or if so add to the maintenance budget.
That's just on the table.
Yeah, it's 0.25% of tax.
I think with the cost of
Smart
living,
locks too.
cost of living being two and a mid half.
Well, you throw that in
Thanks,
there,
great
it's put
budget.
smart locks into the operational budget, then we're basically at
Yeah.
3%.
Throw both those in there. Throw both, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilman Dawson, Hannah.
Second, thanks very much. I think that, since it was my council put in the infrastructure levy, it's exactly what this is for. We haven't drawn on it for a variety of reasons. I think for this budget and what's been done, the taxpayers are getting an awful lot of stuff being done here. And I believe it's structured all properly too.
Okay, anything else?
You good, Joe?
I'm good, that's, I think, we've got a lot of ducks.
That's the heavy lifting
Yeah.
piece there, folks.
Okay. What else?
I don't appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else? on that?
Not from me, that's really helpful, thank you very much. I'll come back with the revised package and.
Okay, business horizon for minutes?
Here's a report on.
No, sorry, I'm in the wrong section there. Apologies. Oh, yeah, of course, the zoning bylaw and cottages, Blackwell, do you want anything you want to highlight? Any questions for council to Mr. Blackwell? Oh, on 8.1, zoning bylaw and cottages.
Yeah, I think there's a few questions.
Okay, page 7 of your package.
Before we go there, I do think I need to ask the mayor a question. Are you going to recuse yourself from this discussion?
Why would I do that?
Because it's about changing the description of cottages. And really few people have one, and you do.
I think there's probably a lot in the villages that have cottages and various things, but this committee is a whole meeting and a discussion, so no, I won't recuse myself. Just like I wouldn't ask you to recuse yourself from the bird committee discussions or bears discussions or all of those committees that you're on.
Pretty different. Okay, so just,
Well, they post more than any other
That's
committee that I know
I'll
of,
just
so.
finish my question. and then you
I
decide.
know I can't, no, you asked me if I was gonna recuse myself, I won't be recusing myself. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, council, refers to council action item number 357, unfortunately, it's not on the log anymore. Kind of think I remember what it is, but it would be helpful if we knew exactly what that says when we're having this discussion.
Well, drag it up.
What I'm also a little unclear about is, so we speak about, principal uses with, of a dwelling, and would say, our principal residence is a dwelling and secondary suite. And then we've got secondary uses, which could be accessory buildings and structures, and it talks about accessory buildings and structures, what size they can be. And then it talks about what you now want to call accessory dwelling units, which used to be referred to as cottages. But what I'm not clear about is when an accessory building and potentially, this is like the one with that, especially potentially a living unit, is combined into one structure. Do you add those numbers together? Or what size is the accessory dwelling allowed to be?
Blackwell?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I wish I could give you just a cut and paste simple answer. So with regard to zoning, what gets defined in terms of permitted uses is use, not building type. So the use is, so the use would be residential, and then an iteration, what kind of residential? It wouldn't be the kind of building, it's the kind of residential. And the deeper one goes into it, the deeper into the gray and the iterations it gets. For this purpose, so this is one of the problems of where this RS1 zone needs to be fine-tuned. The list of permitted uses is not what it needs to be, nor is the list of accessory uses. It's not what it needs to be. It's awkward. And it should be updated anyway. So the list of permitted uses should be residential. Accessory uses would be, this is what I would suggest to council, given your OCP and given what's in the zoning bylaw. Stop referring to secondary suites and all these other different iterations of secondary things. Just call them all accessory dwelling units, which covers everything other than the single family.
So you're going to come back with a definition of that when we move back to us. So the question, let me put the question in numbers, and from memory, so quote me, I'll get it wrong. A cottage can be 105 square meters. Yeah. Accessory dwellings, I think it was 77 or a percentage of something like that.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I think it was 77, so that's like a garage, right?
Yeah.
So now you're gonna have people who want to, although it seemed to be excluded before, which with the attention they want to allow, they're gonna have a garage with a cottage on top, right? So does that mean your accessory dwellings on the bottom floor and, your accessory structures on the bottom floor and your accessory dwellings on the top floor? Is that how they would be intended?
It would be, if I got distracted there, it would be that, so the garage scenario, it would be, the garage would be an accessory structure. And any sort of residential use above that
With the ADU,
would be an ADU.
so you end up with structure that's 177 square meters. Although the little orchid was the top one's bigger than the small one, but anyway, counting or something. I don't know. Okay, so that's not clear. That's really going to be worked out. That's not what.
There's lots that needs to be worked out. Yeah, there's a bunch of things, not least of which, I mean, I wasn't here, I don't know, but, here's the hybrid of what the OCP says, what the OCP doesn't say, what the community's appetite is with regard to units on the units on the property to accommodate either people like firefighters or kids or, you know, aging parents, any of those sorts of scenarios. Does the OCP reflect what it needs to? Yes or no? Yes, good, no, what needs to change? And then to the extent that this applies, how about the OCP? The zoning bylaw, does that complement? Yes, great, no, what needs to change? And so what I've seen change is sizes. And that there's no cut, I can't tell you that they all are growing bigger, and I can't tell you that. Every community is different, some communities want more space allocated for that purpose. Some people want to keep it the same, some people, I've seen a couple of cases where they wanted to reduce it, depending on the lot sizes.
So then the other thing that needs to be cleared up as well is, and this is problematic because we already had a public hearing on the short-term rentals. The short-term rental portion of the, do now move from the policy in the bylaw says it excludes secondary suites. You cannot rent out a secondary suite. It says that black and white. I'll be clarity. But now if we're changing the term to accessory dwelling units, do cottages now get treated the same way as short-term rentals? Because now you've got two bylaws using different words, and mine could be interpreted completely differently. So that also needs to be considered.
You would have to put definition around that.
So you got to go back to that as well,
Yeah.
which is coming to the council meeting. And then my final question, and here's the big one, is this is written with the provision that all of these changes are attached to community amenity contribution, CAC,
Which we don't have here.
which we don't have. We have a policy, wasn't it, drafted?
Supposed to be.
We had a policy on the previous council to the one I was on. It got as far as draft. It had some public input, let's just call it that, but it never got approved. I couldn't find it on the website, but it's somewhere. And I know the numbers bounced around, and I know where they said, but when this still refers to it, so we need that.
Well, you can't, you need to, it has to be a bylaw. And the only time that a bylaw will give effect to that is through the rezoning process. So where you get a density lift, there are CAC contributions. That's actually evolved, even provinces changed the legislation so that it's even bigger than it was before. But
But this still refers to it.
shouldn't.
As presented, it does.
It's in the vernacular of Lions Bay, but it needs to be removed because, as I say, we don't have CACs. CACs are by statute required to be established by bylaw. And what triggers a CAC contribution is upzoning.
So shouldn't we be establishing the CAC first?
You're never gonna have a CAC contribution unless you find somebody that wants to rezone from single family residential to multifamily. Wants to increase the density.
So our previous CAC, and I guess it was a policy, not a bylaw, I'm not sure, maybe it was, identified increased density as adding a cottage or subdividing a lot. And those two things had a value for CACs. Never got approved, as I said, it was the end of the term, never, and it died.
Yeah, that neither of those are legitimate. You can't do either of those vis-a-vis the legislation. So,
Well, I'm not. Why?
because secondary suites are permitted outright. So you're not increasing the density, that's the base
I
density.
didn't say secondary suites. This is where secondary suites, the way we understand them now, are not ADUs, two different things. We had secondary suites, cottages, subdivisions. Secondary suites, no problem, everyone have at it, please, the more the better. Rent into the Fire Guys if you can. Cottages, I think it got down to 10 grand was going to be the number. Subdivisions was all over the place. At one stage it was going to be 33% of the lot value and then 25%.
So that's,
Then those numbers all thrown around.
so those would be DCCs. We also don't have a DCC bylaw for subdivision. So subdivision doesn't increase density, right? Because the zoning establishes density. So if you have a single family residential lot here,
I can't remember if
I'll show you how. If I have a 1 acre lot here,
Yeah.
and I'm allowed to have a 1/4 acre lot, that's the minimum lot size. I don't know what it is, I made that up. Say it's a 1/4 acre. I can still only build one house. But that lot has the latent, in theory, if it is a flat piece of ground, it has the theory to be bucked up into quarter acre lots. So whether I build it out that way, or it just has the latent capacity, it doesn't change. The density, the base density by zoning establishes how many lots can be facilitated there, whether they're subdivided or not. So the instrument that gets triggered through subdivision is the DCC bylaw, which we don't have. It's been,
Our zoning bylaw says the opposite. It says the minimum lot size is 8,000 square meters, which is twice the size of anyone's lot, well, multiple times the size of anyone's lot. Sounds like it's an odd number. Don't know where it came from. So no one has a lot big enough to subdivide. And then it says, notwithstanding that, and here's a more reasonable number if you pay a CEC. That's what it says. That's what it says. That's what you put in front of us. So what I'm suggesting here is there's lots of changes to happen here.
yes, that's my point.
Well, but that's not what we got presented. We're going to change, we're going to make colleges become ADUs and we're done.
Well, no, what is in front of you is an explanation of what the ARS1 zone says. It's not, what's in front of you doesn't express what I think at all. I'm just interpreting what is there and translating it for council's edification, if you will. What I think is totally different than what you see. But that's a bigger conversation that the community and council needs to have. And that's about, to your point earlier tonight, what is gentle infill for Lions Bay? It's not City of Vancouver definition, but is there a definition for Lions Bay? And if so, what is that definition? And does it apply to certain neighborhoods in Lions Bay, all of Lions Bay, one street in Lions Bay? These are really important conversations because that would allow then the OCP certainly to evolve, and then the zoning to evolve. As soon as it looks like there's potential to do quite a number of subdivisions, let's say, then I would say council needs to turn their mind to establishing a DCC bylaw, which is development cost charges. Development cost charges are intended to capture, these are mathematical, what's the word I'm looking for? Representations of infrastructure costs. And so for every lot or door created, you pay a DCC contribution, which is as much as $25,000 for single family residential. In some communities, 15, 18, 20,000 for multifamily, etc. In that scenario, to help pay for upsizing pipes and all these sorts of things, you've got DCCs. Community amenity contributions, as I say, notwithstanding everything else, that needs to be set out in a CEC bylaw, but there isn't the development activity here that would ever give effect to either of those.
Okay, so you've provided this to us for information. If there's no other questions, it sounds as though this could be wrapped into perhaps that visioning or OCP.
Council priorities, your council priority things.
So there's lots more to answer. Councilor Abbott, any other questions before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
Good questions.
all right.
May, did you want to know item 357?
Yeah, what did it say?
It was staff to clarify any use and provisions for cottages in the village in relation to zoning bylaws, STRs.
STRs, okay. Those are two together, okay.
All right, public questions. Anyone online or in the gallery wish to speak?
Yes, sir.
Yes, take the podium, please.
Just following up on what Councillor Abbott
Can you
said.
state your name for Crystal,
David
please?
Dean,
Thank you.
335 would be good. Just following up with what Councillor Abbott said, as far as these cottages and stuff, are cottages legal at this point already? Or you're changing it so that they are legal?
Mr. Blackwell.
So it's a difficult question. So there's a notion of grandfathering. So if they were not in the past prohibited, then they were permitted until they reached a point by zoning Until there was a time where the zoning bylaw set out a restriction to that. Now, I can't tell you if, when, or how any of that came to be, but it's possible, very possible, it happens all the time. That zoning changes anywhere across Canada, but let's say in the Lower Mainland, because this is where we are. It's common for zoning to change, and through these zoning changes, existing uses don't align with the new zone requirements associated with that. They come out of step. So it's not that those old uses have to now change to match the zoning bylaw. They're allowed to stay as they are. And it's called grandfathering. Until, and there's a bunch of untils, until this and until that, and then when those until things happen, then they have to comply with the zoning bylaw. So it could be in Lions Bay that some number of, whatever you want to call them, cottages or whatever else, were built before there was a restriction on it. So that's one part. There's no discussion that I'm aware of, certainly not at the council table, about changing any of that language to permit cottages. There is a section in the RS1 zone that speaks to cottages. It sort of gives the illusion that cottages are permitted because it speaks to cottages in there. Problem is, you can only do those things that are listed under permitted uses by regulation, by statute. And so right at the top of every zone, it's got a list of permitted uses and ancillary or accessory uses as a secondary list. So although cottages are spoken about further down in the RS1 zone, they're not in that permitted list. So it's sort of a catch-22 sort of thing. So technically, now, somebody cannot today submit an application to build a cottage. Because although, they could say, well, what do you mean I can't? It says in the zone. I have to say, I know it does, but it's not in permitted uses. So they're gonna say, well, that's not procedural fairness. That's confusing and it's inappropriate. I have to say, yep, you're right. So that needs to be, one way or the other, that needs to be brought into alignment. Either cottages needs to be taken out to reflect the list of permitted uses, or the permitted uses has to change to reflect the existence of the cottage provision.
Councillor Isaac.
So, and I know there's other stuff you'd have to go look to confirm this, but at face value, from what we've seen tonight, that language of the cottages first appeared in 2017. So anything pre-2017 may be grandfathered, potentially.
Potentially.
Okay.
There's a whole bunch of caveats, right? I could be depending on this, depending on that, depending on all.
But after 2017, shouldn't be.
In theory, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other comments?
Just before we conclude, Mayor Barry, my suggestion.
Hold on one moment, just anyone online? No, okay.
Thank you very much. Mayor.
Sorry, did that answer your question?
Somewhat.
Sorry.
I'll linger around after and then I can.
Councilor McLaughlin.
Thank you very much. I think appreciating the good work done by staff to get the budget to what looks like the goal line. I'm thinking that, and dearly love to see my colleagues and staff every Thursday that I do. I'm seeing an end to this and I like that. But what I also think is that Kelly being an example where not a lot of people are watching us online and who knows how they get their information. But this might be something that is worthwhile for staff to present to the public. Next Wednesday is the 12th, and so the following week, or anyhow, where I'm going to this, either the last 2 Fridays before December, when we kind of click into a different kind of festive thing. If I'm suggesting that staff do a budget report, I think the taxpayers would like to see how we're spending their money and how wisely we're allocating our resources and how it's getting funded. And that would also give them an opportunity to come to us if they've got any questions.
Ms. Blackwell, any comments?
Great idea.
We're not talking in person, are we? Because we'll have to look at our calendars if that's the case.
Oh, no, this is a village
This
update.
is
Village
just
update.
a village update, yeah.
I mean, not that anybody, well,
No,
from my own experience, I used to bet with the former CFO how many people would ever hit the link in the budget. Usually one because I always picked less than 2.
Yeah, okay, Councilor Abbott?
Sorry, that just brings something to mind. Maybe I should have asked about earlier. Given the letter that you sent today, and assuming we're not gonna get an extension, we then have to respond by the 15th. I spoke to John Robb last night. He thinks he can get something done tonight or tomorrow morning. But then I think we need council needs to discuss it. So my suggestion is, and I think we're looking at the calendar now, is it possible to call for a special council meeting on Monday? Put it out in the village update tomorrow, which gives residents some time to look at it, because that's the only way we can get council to agree to something by the 14th. Because Tuesday's Remembrance Day, Wednesday we've got another session on, and by Thursday we're done.
Sure, council's pleasure. Just give me the nod and we'll do it.
All right, it's gonna be based on John Robb putting something together.
Yeah, you'll get it to us tonight or tomorrow morning. But I mean, Crystal will have to know that she can go put a meeting invite out tomorrow.
That's my nod.
Okay,
Sounds reasonable, yeah.
right, I'm good.
Just if I could take 1 second, and well, a few more than 1 second. Thank you to those that have completed that survey for Wednesday. For those that haven't, it's mission critical. Tracy Lawrence needs that input as soon as possible. Unfortunately, Councillor Cunliffe isn't here, but if anyone happens to be talking to Councillor Cunliffe,
She's told me she's done it.
perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else not done?
I haven't checked that. Tracy usually.
Anyone else at the table not done?
I've done
I've done it. Fantastic.
Okay,
Sorry.
it. You done?
Awesome.
in order.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Motion
to
closed.
adjourn.
Thank you.
Second, all in favor?
Oh,
Motion carried.
you want to sit? Is it Crystal?